going to be honest here. I was going to record this video yesterday. I was supposed to record this video yesterday and it was supposed to be up then. The reason being I didn't, and I'm going to be totally honest about this, is that I was just that angry, that annoyed. Emotions were too high. And I just thought that I actually needed time just to sleep on it and just to try to calm myself down. And I'm sure West Ham fans will totally share this. I've got to the breaking point of the season now, and that Newcastle performance and result was just epitomised everything that's going on this season. That wasn't a shock. I think it was a shock to people possibly outside the club. Other fans are probably like, really losing that heavily. It's not a shock at all. But fans that understand West Ham will know how bad we've been. We've been back so bad now for such a long time, and I'm just got to the stage now where I'm just exhausted with it. Like everybody else, can't wait to see the back of the season. Can't wait to see the back of this manager. Can't wait to see the back of this owner. Really, I just want to see the back of it all and start fresh because this club is crying out for it. So obviously the result 5-1 to Newcastle, horrendous performance from West Ham. All right, we did have moments. We played okay. We started well in the first 5 minutes and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really not going to start going down a path of trying to clutch at straws because I know some people are and saying, well, hang on, no, we did play all right. You can't lose 5-1 at home and say you played all right. It was horrendous performance. And I will go into some of the points. I will say one thing I want to say is that about that performance, and David Moyes has already alluded to it, and I'm going to come to him in a minute, and saying, well, it was down to individual errors, and fans would see that it was down to individual errors. Players that are behind the manager and players that are playing as a team United don't make catastrophic errors like that throughout games. It just doesn't happen. There's a reason they're making these errors. It's because they're just not, there's no togetherness in the squad. They're not behind the manager at all. That's the reason for that. The club now have come out and once again, the same boring rhetoric about he's got given another game and it's a must not lose game. They're now thinking about him and all this stuff. I'm just tired of hearing it. We've been hearing that all season long about this kind of where we're assessing David Moyes. They're not happy with the results. They still think he can turn it around. They really hope he can. We've heard that since literally the beginning of the season. If you remember, there was pressure straight on us when we lost to Man City, then Forest, and we're all going, bloody hell, this is not a great start to the season. And that already those noises were coming from the club. We're now in April the following year, and we're still in the same position. We're still down the bottom of the league where we were at the beginning of the season, and we've still got the same message coming from our board. And that's one thing. Before I go into David Moyes, I want to talk about David Sullivan in particular, and I will come on to Kretinsky in a minute. But David Sullivan has sat back like he did with Avram Grant and just is not acting. He is living in absolute delusion. I genuinely believe that it is the blind leading the blind here. This is David Moyes and David Sullivan they're too tight. There seems to be this kind of club element between these the owner and the manager. I mean, Moyes alludes to it. The reason I say it is because Moyes alludes to it quite a lot. He keeps saying, I'm so lucky to have these owners, that aren't, knee-jerking. You're lucky to have these owners, David, because they're incompetent. Normal, competent football clubs would have got rid of you ages ago. They would not tolerate this. Aston Villa, we talked about them before, are a prime example of this. They paid money to get Steven Gerrard in their football club. They went to Rangers and said, that's the man for us. Got him in, paid the compensation, paid him a decent money, gave him money for players, etc., etc., etc. And recognised straight away, early on, this isn't working. Things aren't happening. They're not. Players aren't playing for him. It's just not working. Bang. Pulled the trigger, went abroad to Spain, went to Villarreal, got Emery in, paid the compensation once again, and now look at them. Comfortably mid-table, comfortably in the Premier League, nowhere near relegation, and they just dealt with it. We're the total opposite. We've just this utter delusion that they're just sitting back and trying to spin this narrative all the time. And one of the things that they always keep spinning is the fact that David Moyes is the best man for the job. They keep saying, oh, he's the best man for the job. If you were in this position, he's the perfect candidate. I'm just sick of hearing that. I'm just tired of listening to this rubbish that it's almost like they're behaving like he's Alex Ferguson of Manchester United. It's like Manchester United having a bad season or finishing, 7th or 8th after winning, countless Premier League trophies and FA Cups and Champions Leagues. Then fair enough, he's probably earned it. That's the way they're treating David Moyes. Acting like there's just like we've got the best manager in the world at this football club. Why on earth would we change it? I'm just tired of hearing it. Really, I'm getting tired of it. I mean, what is their evidence? Where is their evidence now? to suggest that David Moyes is the right manager for West Ham. Where is this evidence? All it seems to ever be based on is, well, he got us into Europe. We had a good season a couple of years ago. That just seems to be the only bit of evidence they've got. I've actually got a statistic come up, and someone sent this to me, and it was regarding since December 5th, 2021. 2021, December the 5th, the beginning of December 21, so that's 16 months ago. West Ham in that time, in 16 months, have beaten Watford, Norwich, Everton, Villa, Forest, Southampton, Wolves, Bournemouth, Fulham, and Fulham. That's it. That is the only teams we've beaten in the Premier League. That is horrendous. There's not one team that jumps out at you going, "Oh, that's a really big win." We cannot compete with these sides. Newcastle proved it. They just walked through West Ham. We are such a poor side under David Moyes, and I'm just at a loss as to what they're seeing. I don't understand what David Moyes has to do to be dismissed from his job. The club are quite literally just sleepwalking towards relegation and just not facing up to what's going on. I was watching, obviously, the Newcastle game, and I've tried my best not to. Hence why this video is a little bit later. I've tried to reflect on it and think about it a little bit more. If you watch the Newcastle game with David Moyes, there's a couple of signs in that you can just see that he's just lost it. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do. At one point in the game, I think Nick Pope was injured. So they sent on the medical team, Newcastle, to deal with Nick Pope. And then at that point, I believe the score was 2-0. I think they were 2-0 up at that point, I believe. Okay. So West Ham are 2-0 down at home. I think it was something like 25 minutes, whatever, on the clock, something like that. And then, as I say, there's a break in play because to deal with Nick Pope. The Newcastle players were called over by Eddie Howe. And he's then given them they're given like a water break, and he is absolutely engaging them, giving them instructions. He's pointing them over. You deal with this. You deal with that. They're 2-0 up. David Moyes is standing next to him, just with his hands in his pockets, just staring. He hasn't got a clue what to do. And you look at it thinking, look at that. That is why we're in this position. It just epitomises where David Moyes is as a manager. And I'm not here to suggest that David Moyes is a terrible football manager. He's awful, and he's just lost it at West Ham now. It's done. His time is up. That to me screams a manager that's saying, "There's no point me talking to my players. They're not going to listen to me." Or it's him saying, "I don't know I've got no instructions to him, so I don't know what to do." I think it probably is a combination of the both. He looks a defeated man. He doesn't know what to do. It's just unbelievable. This week, another thing that I just can't get over. This week, David Moyes said prior to the Newcastle game, he was asked about Danny Ings, right? And I'm sure you've seen it. And he said that he kind of alluded to the fact that he's surprised about Danny Ings and his style of play. Like, who knew? Danny Ings is a fox in the box. Wow, I didn't know that. We're trying to work out sort of Danny Ings is 31. He's bloody been playing the Premier League for the last 10 years, or whatever it is. Played at Liverpool, Southampton, Villa. What earth are you talking about? I know he's not like an 18-year-old that's come off. We've got from another team in Scotland or something. He's come in and we're trying to find out what sort of player this is. This is a player that's an established Premier League. He's played for England, and he's acting like he doesn't know what to do with him. It's remarkable. And then not only that, right? He basically said that Danny Ings doesn't work on his own. Just doesn't work. He needs bodies around him for it to work. Okay, fine. It's ridiculous you're saying this because we all know that, and I'm a bloody football fan, and I know that, and you're a football manager getting paid thousands of pounds a week to do your job, and you're telling me you don't know. Anyway, so what's he doing in the game? We're 3-1 down, and he takes off Antonio and puts Danny Ings on to go up top on his own. You literally just said to us this week, you come out of your mouth and said, this man cannot play as a lone striker. So you then play him as a lone striker when we're trying to chase the game. Because David Moyes hasn't got a clue what to do with this team. He hasn't got the brain to go, right, I need to completely change our system here. There is no change in system. We've seen it week in, week out. We'll see it against Fulham. 1 up top, 2 wing back. We just know the system. You can literally just write West Ham's team every week. Bearing in mind, by the way, this Newcastle game, You can see my emotions are getting better at me. Hence why I tried to imagine me yesterday, it'd been a nightmare. Newcastle game, by the way, that game we got absolutely thrashed. Moyes had a full strength team there. Apart from Scamacca, a full strength side, which is rare. Let's be honest. In football, that's rare. And that's how badly we played. I mean, another thing that David Moyes that's just stunning is Thomas Soucek. Why is he not dealing with the Soucek situation? What is he seeing? Thomas Soucek has been horrendous for such a long time for West Ham. Horrendous. Not even, no, he's been playing roughly, but no, awful. He's been an awful player for West Ham. He shouldn't really be needed squad ever again. He's been that bad. I'm surprised. I mean, let's be honest. Most competent football clubs and managers wouldn't even entertain the idea of putting him on the pitch. He would be your last resort, just to come on, probably just be a bit defensive. That's it. He would never be a starting midfielder. Yet, week in, week out, he is. The statistics of Thomas Soucek are unbelievable. Again, I've got some statistics from someone that sent them to me. I'm just going to dig them out. I've just realised this. And he sent them to me. So, against Newcastle, he made 8 passes in 63 minutes. 8. Against Southampton in 68 minutes, he made 11 passes. 90 minutes against Aston Villa, 9 passes. I mean, it's stunning. And yet, all this man does is just ignore it. He just ignores it. I cannot get over how we're still having the same. I'm having to do the same video again and again and still talking about the situation of David Moyes. It's remarkable. But I actually, do you know what? As much as I'm so angry at David Moyes and frustrated with the situation and the incompetency of David Moyes, the fact that we've got a terribly incompetent owner. That's the biggest problem. And this is the real reason we're in this position. Because like I've said, any normal competent owner would have just dealt with this situation a long time ago. David Sullivan is absolutely just buying into anything that David Moyes is telling him. That's what he's doing. He is just believing whatever's coming out of David Moyes' mouth. We hear what comes out of David Moyes' mouth. We hear it week in, week out. He says it at every press conference. He alludes to this constant, West Ham fans have had a brilliant couple of years. We've had with European success. They've had it brilliant. He just keeps going back to it. And you can just hear these conversations with David Sullivan. I can imagine that's all they ever talk about. God, do you remember that night in Leon? God, do you remember that? You can just hear it, can't you? You can just imagine this is the conversations that these idiots are having. And it's just masking what's going on. Let's just keep talking about the bollocks from years ago. I just can't get over it. And I've got to ask one thing as well, moaning about David Sullivan. And believe me, I mean, we've all known for a long time, West Ham fans have had enough of the ownership of this club. The vast majority have had enough and want to change. And let's hope that, that on the horizon that will be happening. That's another conversation another time. But I've got to ask, where is Daniel Kretinsky in all of this? Why is he not acting? I'd love to know what he's saying or where he's involvement. Has he got any involvement? I just don't know. I'd be surprised if he's got no involvement because the man's pumped hundreds of millions of pounds into this football club. It's not a nothing project, is it? It's a lot of money. And I just can't get over the fact that this club are just sticking their head in the sand. That the owners are just not acting. They're just not realising what's going on. I just cannot get over it. And all we're hearing now from the football club is, this is what we've heard. They're having now a time to reflect and think about the situation. And Fulham game is a must not lose. I'm actually starting to join that bloody club of people, which I didn't ever, and I don't really want to. I hate saying things like this, where a part of me hopes we do lose, just so we can get rid of him. And I actually genuinely believe we will lose. I'm going to do another video on Fulham later, but I genuinely believe we will. I've got no confidence in West Ham whatsoever. Absolutely, no confidence. And also, as well, what we'll say is David Moyes is he's on thin ice. You can just see that the end is coming. The end is there. We can all see that. He's not going to survive for much longer. He might see the end of the season, but he's not going to be around for much longer. His comments after the game were disgusting towards the fans. I'd heard, I know we'd said a few interviews, but one of the interviews regarding, only real fans, that's where you see real fans when they stay to the end and all this. I'm just tired of the fact that he's resorting to this kind of tactic of trying to effectively blame the fans. blame the situation. He never takes responsibility. I've noticed this quite a lot of David Moyes. He never ever seems to hold his hands up. It's never his fault. He's even said, even prior to, I mean, I'll talk about this in a second, but even prior to the Fulham game, he's had a press conference and he's come out and said that he doesn't know much about the Fulham squad. But he actually said those words. They was asked about what you think about Mitrovic and he basically went, I don't really know much about Fulham. Now, look, I understand he might be being a bit coy and trying to play a mind game, but what are you thinking? You do know West Ham fans are watching this. I mean, on what planet does that come out as a comment that you should be saying as a manager? I mean, we all, people that have jobs. Imagine you being asked about something about it's your expertise, and you go, I don't know. It's just a bizarre response, It's remarkable. It really is remarkable. But yeah, David Moyes. Then, I mean, I as far as I understand it, then this could be his last game. That Fulham really could be. That if he loses this game, then the board will have to act. But I actually have no confidence in the board. I think they're totally incompetent, totally inept. I don't have much faith in them making the right decision. I really don't. And even if they were to get rid of David Moyes, who do they bring in? Again, I don't really trust them to get it right. I've lost so much confidence in this football club over this season, or over the last 18 months, where it's been, that I'm just, it's hard to see any positive light at the moment. It's very, very difficult. But one thing is, for certain, that the ice is very, very thin now on David Moyes, and let's be honest, it's starting to crack.